Rosewood. Just 25 minutes outside the chaos of downtown Seattle, this sleepy suburban neighborhood looked like something straight out of a real estate commercial. Rows of freshly mowed lawns, white picket fences, flower boxes on every porch. At sunset, the streets glowed amber. Children rode their bikes, dogs barked lazily behind gates. Everyone waved, everyone smiled. And yet, behind one of those pastel-painted homes with ivy creeping up the mailbox, something was very wrong. Claire Thompson, 39, had lived here for over a decade. A dedicated ER nurse and single mother, she worked nights and sacrificed sleep to make sure her daughter Emily had everything she needed. Their lives weren't perfect, but they were stable, quiet, safe. Or so Claire believed. Until the night she found the camera. Claire wasn't the kind of woman who panicked easily. Working in emergency care had hardened her nerves. Blood, broken bones, even death. She'd seen it all, but what she couldn't handle, what sent chills through her spine, was the thought of someone invading her home, her daughter's room, her trust. Emily Thompson, 14, had always been the quiet, artistic type, gifted in her own way. She loved painting, sketching, often shutting herself in her room for hours. Claire encouraged it, seeing art as an outlet. But lately, Emily had changed. Subtle at first, flinching when someone entered the room. Locking her door at night, sleepless eyes, silence when she used to laugh. Claire assumed it was just teenage hormones, the pressure of school. But one night, home from her shift earlier than usual, she passed Emily's door and heard nothing. Not silence, a void, an absence. The kind that screamed at her motherly instincts. Something was off. It was a Thursday evening when Claire began cleaning Emily's room while the girl was at a late art class. Dusting the bookshelf, she reached up to adjust an old stuffed teddy bear, one that hadn't been touched in years. That's when she felt it, a click, a shift in weight. The bear's left eye wasn't just glass, it was a lens. Her heart pounded. At first she froze. Then, pulling it down, she felt the subtle vibrations of a transmitter. Inside, tucked deep in the stuffing, a tiny black device was blinking red. Recording. Her breath caught in her throat. She ripped the bear open, her fingers trembling. The camera wasn't some child's toy. This was advanced, industrial, discreet, and someone had gone through a lot of trouble to hide it there. Deep panic mixed with rage as she opened the back and removed the micro SD card. She needed answers. Later that night, with Emily asleep upstairs, Claire slid the SD card into her laptop. Her hands hovered above the keyboard, hesitant. Part of her didn't want to know, but she had to. The screen flickered. A folder opened, dozens of video files, all labeled by date and time, all within the last 4 months. She clicked one. A quiet evening, the camera aimed at Emily's bed. The footage showed her daughter sitting, sketching in her notebook. Nothing happened. Claire exhaled. Then the next video played. The timestamp was 2:13 a.m. The bedroom door creaked open. A figure stepped inside. Tall, male, quiet. He moved with confidence, familiarity. Didn't turn on the lights. Walked straight to the bookshelf, lingered near Emily's bed, and then left. The footage was short, 30 seconds. But Claire's skin crawled. She clicked another and another. The same man, different nights. Emily never stirred. He never said a word, but he returned, again and again, always when Claire was at work. And then, one file, dated just 4 nights ago. The man crouched beside Emily, who was asleep, brushing a hand over her blanket, whispering something inaudible. Claire's stomach twisted. He was too close, too comfortable. And then she saw his face, not clearly, just a partial profile, but unmistakable. It was Mark. Mark Reynolds, 45, wasn't a stranger in the legal sense, not at first. He was Claire's cousin, or rather her late ex-husband's cousin. A man who had fallen on hard times, divorce, bankruptcy, a trail of bad luck that led him to Claire's door. When he showed up 6 months ago, asking for a place to stay temporarily, Claire agreed. Family was family. He'd been kind, respectful, quiet. He spent most of his time in the basement room, claiming to work on freelance IT gigs. She never thought twice, never questioned his motives. But now, looking at his face frozen in the glow of the hidden camera, everything changed. Claire didn't sleep that night. She sat in the dark, the laptop screen glowing in front of her, each video file chipping away at her reality. Her hands were clenched into fists, rage battling disbelief. Could it be true? Why Emily? Why them? More questions than answers swirled through her head. Claire needed someone she could trust, someone who understood crime, surveillance, technology, someone who wouldn't dismiss her as paranoid or overreacting. She picked up her phone and scrolled to a contact she hadn't spoken to in over a year. Detective Sarah Brooks, her old high school friend, now one of Seattle PD's most respected organized crime investigators. Claire hesitated, then typed, "Sarah, I need your help. It's about Emily and something I found in her room." What Claire didn't know, not yet, was that what she found wasn't just about Mark. It wasn't just about Emily. The camera wasn't the only one. And Mark Reynolds wasn't acting alone. That one hidden device would soon unravel a web of surveillance, data theft, and a far more dangerous operation rooted deep inside the quiet suburbs of Rosewood. A network that involved anonymous clients, encrypted streams, and a tech mastermind known only by the alias Rick, a man who sold access to lives, streamed straight from inside their homes. As Claire closed the laptop and stared at the blank screen, her reflection trembled back at her, a mother, a protector, now staring down a nightmare she never imagined. Someone had been watching her daughter, not once, not twice, every night, for months. And the man responsible was sleeping just one floor below. But Claire wouldn't stay silent. She just didn't know that this was only the beginning. Detective Sarah Brooks wasn't someone who scared easily. She'd spent the last 10 years tracking Seattle's darkest criminals, human traffickers, data smugglers, cartel-linked hackers, but nothing could have prepared her for the message she received that Friday morning. "Sarah, I need your help. It's about Emily, and something I found in her room." It was from Claire Thompson, her high school best friend, the girl who aced biology, pulled double nursing shifts while raising a baby alone, and somehow still sent birthday cards every year. Sarah called immediately. "Claire?" Her voice trembled. "It's Emily. Someone's been watching her. There's a hidden camera in a toy." Sarah's entire posture changed. "Have you touched it?" "I removed the SD card. I watched the footage." There was a long pause. Then Sarah said 3 words Claire didn't expect to hear. "Don't say more. I'm on my way." Sarah arrived that evening, dressed down in jeans and a leather jacket, but her eyes were sharp, the same eyes that had stared down murderers in interrogation rooms. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. They sat at the kitchen table while Claire opened her laptop and showed her the footage. Mark, in Emily's room, at night, again and again. Claire could barely keep her eyes on the screen. But Sarah watched every second, her expression unreadable. When the last clip played, she closed the laptop with a soft snap. "That's not amateur surveillance," Sarah said. Claire blinked. "What does that mean?" "It means your cousin isn't just some pervert. He's trained. The way he enters, no noise, no hesitation. The camera tech, that's military grade. These clips, they weren't just stored locally. He might be streaming them." Claire's face drained of color. "To who?" "That's what we're going to find out." That night, while Emily was upstairs drawing, unaware of the storm unraveling below, Sarah insisted on searching Mark's workspace in the basement. Claire had only been down there twice. Mark kept the door shut, claiming he needed privacy for work. But now, with Sarah leading the way, flashlight in hand, every step creaked like a scream. The basement was cleaner than expected, too clean. Against one wall stood a plain desk, neatly arranged, a single closed laptop. Nothing suspicious on the surface. But Sarah noticed the floorboards beneath the rug. She knelt, peeled back the corner, and used a screwdriver to lift a loose plank. Beneath it, a black case filled with tech equipment, tiny microphones, memory cards, 4 more cameras, just like the one Claire found, all packaged, all ready. Claire covered her mouth. "Oh my God." Sarah looked grim. He was planning to expand, or already did. The laptop was password locked. But Sarah wasn't just a detective. She had resources. She called in a favor to a trusted forensic analyst who remotely cracked the drive. What they found was worse than either of them had imagined. The laptop held access to an encrypted network. Not the regular internet. Not even the dark web. This was something else, a closed-loop data auction system known only by a code name, Greyline. Inside, users bid on access to private live streams, videos recorded from inside people's homes. Not just Emily, dozens of feeds, maybe more. The logs showed uploads, time-stamped, geotagged. Emily's bedroom had been streamed live. Claire dropped into a chair, her face pale. "He's been selling my daughter's privacy." Sarah's jaw clenched. "He's not alone. He's working for someone." One folder on the drive was named Rick. Inside, encrypted messages, equipment orders, IP addresses routed through offshore proxies, and one chilling note at the top of a digital invoice. Next install, Client 31, target is high-value miner. Instructions attached. Sarah whispered, Rick Donovan. Claire looked up. Who? Sarah's voice lowered. He's a ghost in law enforcement circles. Ex-NSA contractor gone rogue, tech genius. Rumored to supply surveillance hardware to cartels, traffickers, even governments. No one's ever seen him. No one's ever caught him. And Mark's working for him? Claire whispered. Sarah didn't answer. She didn't need to. Meanwhile, Emily had been growing more withdrawn. She didn't know about the camera yet. Claire and Sarah decided to wait, to protect her from the trauma until they understood more. But Emily felt the tension, the late-night whispers, the locked basement. She began to draw disturbing images, shadowy figures behind doors, eyes in the walls. One drawing showed herself sleeping, with a masked man watching from the corner. Claire found it by accident. She showed Sarah. She knows, Claire said. On some level, she knows. Sarah nodded. Kids always do. 2 days later, Mark vanished. He left no note. His room was untouched, but his phone was gone. His car? Still in the driveway. Claire hadn't even noticed. She'd worked a double shift. Sarah called in a missing persons report, but deep down they both knew this wasn't a disappearance. It was a move. Mark knew they were onto him, and he wasn't running away. He was covering his tracks, deleting data, alerting Rick. The countdown had started. That night, Claire was alone. Sarah had gone back to the station to prep a warrant. Emily was asleep upstairs. It was past midnight when the knock came. Slow, deliberate, 3 times. Claire stood frozen in her living room. Her phone buzzed, a security alert, front porch motion detected, but no one was there. Then another knock, this time from the back door. Claire crept to the kitchen, her breath shallow. She pulled the curtain slightly, nothing, but the motion light flickered on. A shadow passed through the yard. She called Sarah, voicemail. Then the home internet went out. The screen on the smart TV went black. The Wi-Fi dropped. Claire looked at her phone. No service. No signal. She wasn't just being watched. She was being cut off. In the basement, Claire heard a sound. A soft metallic clink. The sound of something unlocking. She grabbed a kitchen knife and slowly descended the stairs. The darkness clung to her skin like ice. At the bottom, the storage door was wide open. Inside, the case of cameras was gone. Just one thing remained, a note, typed, taped to the wall. Stop digging, she's already sold. Claire stumbled back, gasping, her body trembling. The note fluttered off the wall. Sarah returned within the hour with 2 uniformed officers. The scene was locked down, but Mark was nowhere. No prints, no video. Even the security system had been wiped. Rick, or whoever his network included, had been inside the house. Sarah put Claire and Emily under emergency police protection. But safety felt like a joke now. The hidden camera wasn't just a violation. It was a symptom of something deeper, something vast. And now, Emily was no longer a random victim. She was a target. Night had never felt this long. Claire stood in the dim light of her kitchen, her trembling hands clutching a coffee mug she hadn't taken a single sip from. The silence of the house seemed heavier now, as if the walls themselves were absorbing the truth she had uncovered. Emily was asleep upstairs. At least Claire hoped so. But her mind reeled with the horrifying knowledge of who Mark truly was and what he had been doing under her roof. Detective Sarah Brooks had left only an hour earlier after combing through the footage and extracting the memory cards from the hidden cameras. Claire had expected rage or tears when the truth hit, but instead, a numb fog had settled over her. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was fear. Or maybe it was the part of her that felt betrayed in the worst possible way by someone she'd once called family. The next morning brought no relief. Claire dropped Emily off at school like any other day, pretending everything was normal, while Detective Brooks and her team launched a full-scale investigation into Mark Reynolds. Sarah called that afternoon with news. Claire, we traced the signal relays on the camera. They weren't just recording locally. They were streaming to a remote server, encrypted, but we cracked it. The footage wasn't just stored, it was being shared. Someone's been watching, in real time. Claire felt her knees weaken. Who? She asked, barely able to whisper. We don't know yet. but the IP address points to a network with known links to international trafficking and surveillance for hire rings. Claire, this is bigger than Mark. The words hung in the air. Claire didn't know what chilled her more, that Mark had been spying on Emily, or that someone else, somewhere far away, had been watching too. That evening, Claire decided she had to confront it, whatever it was. The basement was the only place left unchecked. Mark had insisted on using it for storage, locking it up and saying it was just old tools and files. But now Claire saw it differently. The lock was flimsy. Her heart raced as she snapped it open with a hammer. The door creaked slowly. The room was cold, windowless, and far too clean. A table sat in the middle with multiple monitors, turned off now, and a tangled mess of wires and hardware. A second, smaller monitor faced a chair positioned low to the ground, like someone had been watching, waiting. She found a stack of hard drives. She found photographs of Emily. She found a notepad with coordinates, names, and numbers, encrypted codes that looked like references or logins. Claire dropped to her knees, and then she found something that made her blood freeze, a folder with the name Operation Nestwatch. When Sarah returned the next day and saw the basement set up, her face turned white. Claire, this is a surveillance command center. This isn't just some creep recording for personal use. This is organized. This looks like Rick Donovan's work. Claire stared blankly. Who's Rick Donovan? Sarah closed her eyes. He's a tech contractor. Used to work with federal agencies but went rogue. Started supplying advanced surveillance tech to criminals, warlords, even private intelligence firms. He's off-grid now, but we've been chasing his trail for years. Claire clenched her fists. So he's the one who gave Mark this equipment? We believe so, Sarah nodded. Mark may be part of a bigger operation. These guys infiltrate homes, towns, even governments. And they don't just record. They sell data, manipulate people, and sometimes worse. Claire's stomach turned. Emily had been caught in a network designed not just to spy, but to control. That night, Claire sat with Emily on the edge of her bed. She had to tell her, at least enough to prepare her for what was to come. Sweetheart, Claire said gently, do you remember when Uncle Mark moved in? Emily nodded. Yeah, he was always kind of weird. Claire's voice cracked. Did he ever do anything that made you uncomfortable? Emily hesitated. He always knocked before coming into my room, but sometimes I felt like someone was watching me, even when I was alone. Claire held her daughter close. We found something. There were cameras. You were right to feel scared. Emily tensed. Did he hurt me? Claire shook her head. No, and he won't ever again. Tears ran down Emily's cheeks. Claire kissed her forehead and whispered, You're safe now. I promise. But even as she said the words, she knew safety was a fleeting illusion. Not until they caught the men behind the curtain. Using the data Claire had found, Sarah's team traced several aliases linked to Rick Donovan. One of the most recent transactions involved a shell company operating out of Portland. Surveillance showed Donovan had visited the area only weeks ago. Claire, Sarah said in a secure call, we believe Operation Nestwatch is a real-time data stream hub. Kids like Emily, they're targets. But not just for abuse, for profiling, for future exploitation, intellectual property, social manipulation, even grooming for elite-level intelligence or criminal recruitment. Claire's eyes widened. You mean they're raising pawns? Yes, Sarah confirmed. And it starts with knowing every detail about their lives. The horror of it all became clear. Mark wasn't just a voyeur. He was a handler, a feeder of information to something far worse. Sarah proposed a bold plan. We go public. We fake a lead. We leak a data packet suggesting Emily's become aware and is ready to speak. If they bite, we'll trace the connection. Claire hesitated. You're using my daughter as bait? No, Sarah reassured. We'll simulate everything with deepfakes and encryption. Emily won't even be in the room. The operation launched in 48 hours. A controlled environment was set up in an abandoned facility. When the data went live, they waited. 3 hours later, activity. Someone accessed the fake stream. Their encryption tried masking the location, but Sarah's tech team outmaneuvered them. The IP bounced between Chile, Belarus, and finally Seattle. They're here, Sarah whispered, and Claire knew it wasn't over. Claire could feel her heartbeat pounding in her ears as Sarah's voice echoed through the comms line. They're close, possibly within a few blocks. The trap had worked, too well. After years of remaining a ghost, Rick Donovan had taken the bait. Not only that, but several nodes of the surveillance network lit up within the hour. What Sarah had predicted was now unfolding in real time. Claire and Emily weren't just targets, they were keys. Keys to a system of control, power, and human manipulation more sinister than anything Claire could have imagined. Sarah and her team moved fast. Within 24 hours, they pinpointed a hideout disguised as an antique electronics shop on the edge of Seattle's old industrial zone. The owner, a man with no digital footprint, paid in cash and known only by the name Walter Crane, an alias linked to Donovan's past. Claire insisted on coming. Against protocol, against logic, she argued her way into the operation. "I need to see this end," she said. "I need to know that whatever's been inside my home dies today." At 3:14 a.m., in the freezing rain of a quiet Seattle dawn, tactical units surrounded the shop. From the outside, it looked abandoned, but infrared scans told a different story. Movement, heat signatures, machines running below ground. When they breached, chaos erupted. Flashes of gunfire, screams, shattered glass, static from electronic equipment blaring as it was destroyed. Claire watched from a surveillance van gripping her seat. Then, silence. Sarah's voice came through. "We've got him. Rick Donovan is in custody." Hours later, Claire sat behind a two-way mirror as Sarah interrogated Donovan. He was older than she expected, calm, clean, smiling, a man who looked like a retired professor, not the architect of a criminal empire. "Why Emily?" Sarah asked. Rick shrugged. "Why not? She fit the parameters. High cognition, isolated emotional behavior, artistic leanings, perfect candidate." Sarah leaned in. "Candidate for what?" Donovan's smile widened. "Influence, control, legacy." Claire could barely breathe. "You think this ends with me?" Donovan added. "I'm just the courier. The system's already alive. You've seen only one node." He turned to the mirror. Claire could swear he was staring straight at her. "They're already watching you too." In the weeks that followed, Sarah and her team worked tirelessly to dismantle what Donovan had built. It wasn't just about cameras. It was social engineering, blackmail networks, psychological profiling databases, thousands of victims, hundreds of handlers. Mark Reynolds was extradited from his hiding spot in Oregon and faced federal charges. He confessed to everything, under duress, yes, but it didn't matter. His testimony, combined with Donovan's, broke the case open. Claire became a witness in a federal case. Emily, with professional trauma counseling, began to slowly heal, but safety still felt like a fragile illusion. One night, Claire received a package, no return address, just a flash drive. She plugged it into a secure laptop and found one video file. It was Emily, sleeping. From a new angle, a new camera. Claire screamed and yanked the laptop shut. Sarah was there within the hour. "Someone else is still watching," she said darkly. The footage had metadata, recorded 2 days ago. Not from Mark, not from Donovan, from someone else, someone inside the new circle, a leftover piece of the web. Sarah looked at Claire. "We didn't cut the head off the snake, we only wounded it." Claire made the decision that changed her life. She and Emily moved. New city, new names, new lives. Through a witness protection program, Sarah ensured their safety as much as possible. But Claire knew the truth. There is no total safety in a world built on digital footprints. Still, she refused to live in fear. She began speaking publicly, under alias, about the dangers of surveillance, control, and criminal exploitation in the tech age. Her voice became one of the few beacons in a dark war that no one wanted to admit existed. Emily grew stronger, older, more guarded, yes, but also more curious. She took up cyber forensics, maybe out of revenge, maybe out of survival instinct. Either way, she wouldn't be a victim again. In the last moments of the story, we hear Claire narrating. "We think monsters hide in the shadows, but sometimes they live inside our homes, wear familiar faces, and call us by name. What protects us isn't just walls or laws. It's truth, vigilance, and the strength to keep watching the watchers." Fade to black. 6 months had passed since Claire and Emily vanished into new lives, quietly relocated under federal protection. Their new home was a modest townhouse in the outskirts of Denver, tucked behind tall trees and surrounded by silence. Claire worked under a different name at a local clinic, while Emily was homeschooled through a secure digital network. On the surface, they were safe, but both knew the world had changed and would never feel whole again. Claire tried to reclaim peace in small things. The way sunlight filtered through the kitchen curtains, the quiet hum of Emily's pencil on paper, and the sound of the wind tapping gently on the windows at night instead of coded signals and static. But the past lingered. Every unfamiliar van parked too long, every package on the doorstep, every unexpected glitch on a screen, it all made her heart race. For Emily, the transformation was sharper. She no longer painted as freely. Her art had taken on a darker edge, urban decay, faceless figures, eyes hidden in shadows. The once a sparkling joy in her brushstrokes had been replaced by something more calculated, more watchful. She was no longer just a girl, she was a survivor. One night, while Claire closed up at the clinic, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Untraceable. Just one sentence. You moved, but we see you still. Her hands trembled. She rushed home, breath caught in her throat. When she got there, Emily was safe. Nothing looked disturbed, no signs of forced entry, but Emily was at the computer, calm, too calm. I intercepted it, Emily said. It wasn't a threat. It was a test. Claire stared at her daughter. What do you mean? I think they're still out there, but now I think I'm the one watching them. Emily had begun building a digital shadow network of her own. Working silently with encrypted tools Sarah had once shown her, she traced metadata, triangulated signal jumps, and even intercepted patterns that didn't belong to any public system. What she found was chilling. A secondary faction had split from Donovan's original operation. Not organized like a cartel, but decentralized, operating like a digital cult. Obsessed with surveillance, recording, manipulating. Their motto, found embedded in image code online, repeated like a prayer. All truth lies in observation. Only those who see all are free. Claire was horrified, but Emily didn't back down. She'd been the hunted. Now she would become the hunter. Before her disappearance into deep cover work, Sarah left Claire with one final gift, a contact in the FBI's Cyber Intelligence Division. He reached out, cryptically at first, then offered Emily a silent mentorship channel, access to anonymous digital libraries, tools for tracking online activity, and resources to mask herself better than any protection program could. Claire didn't stop her. She couldn't. This was Emily's way of surviving, and maybe saving others. One final moment closes the story. Claire finds Emily in her room, staring at a video playing on loop. It's low resolution, grainy, old. A toddler version of Emily, years ago, laughing in the backyard while Claire watered the plants. Claire sits beside her. Where did you find this? Emily doesn't answer for a while. Then she says quietly, it was stored on a hidden server, buried under thousands of files labeled as noise. Someone recorded us, even back then. Claire closes her eyes. All those years thinking she was paranoid, she wasn't. She takes Emily's hand. What now? She asks. Emily's voice is calm, resolute. We keep watching. We keep fighting. We never let them hide again. A black screen. Then text begins to type, one letter at a time. To those who think they are gods behind cameras, we see you now. We are not afraid, and we are not alone. Fade out.